good friends over time, seeking retribution. We got winning on our mind. We've got to cross the line.
Hello and welcome to WTF 001. It is our inaugural episode. I'm Reedie, or Jared Reedie, as I was named when I was shot out of the womb. And with me is my good friend, Joe McCord, or as many people know him, McDougal. How are you, Mac?
I'm awesome. Reedy, how are you, my friend?
Mate, good. I'm glad we're finally doing this. It's obviously been something we talked about for a while, both amongst ourselves and on the world famous West Tigers Discord. So I'm good, man. How are you?
Don't tell people about the Discord.
Yeah, sorry. We might have to create a different one. So that way it's
Oh
a
no.
little bit more exclusive. But mate, run me through who you are, your background as a West Tigers fan and what you've sort of your personality and your time on the West Tigers forums and so forth, and why the hell you wanted to do something like this.
Oh mate. So I'm from the black and gold side of the merger. Been with the team since before I can remember. Um, earliest Tigers memory is probably something related to Ben Elias type thing, but not
Not
89.
him sending
So
the leagues club broke, I assume.
no, I don't know specifically. Like it's like an ABC Saturday Arvo game where they got pumped or something in 1990. So I was too young to witness the finals run. So I joined in just after that and then had 10 years of despair until we merged with the Maggies, and then we've had our one year of glory, and it's been another 20 years of despair. So 30 years of long suffering service to the club, 34 years of long suffering service to the club. I've probably been on the forum and online under the name McDougal for a very long time. League Unlimited, West Tigers forum. Probably my biggest contribution to West Tigers fandom is the signing and suggestions and rumors.
Yeah, actually, that
Spread
was
on the
you.
line.
That was you. Well, how many pages is it up to now? 14,000.
It's probably the like longest. It'd have to be up there in the Guinness World Records of like longest running threads that haven't been closed
It's
in
unreal,
forum
the
history.
dudes that are mentioned on that first post too, like beyond like your Madalinos and your Chris McQueens and stuff. It's hilarious. So
Yeah.
we up with like a stack of them. So you sounded a bit like the Oracle you are, but also just some of the mediocre talent that was being thrown up when we had so much
Mhm.
cash to splash. But we won't discuss
Mm.
that. Mate, from my end, I'm from the black and white side, a little bit younger. All I know is West Tigers. My first memory was an '04 game in Campbelltown against Canberra when Benji Marshall tore them to shreds, and it was a love affair ever since. I cop a lot of shit from some of the old brigade about how I don't really remember '05 too much, but there's certain that definitely stick out and are in my memory. And then 2010 and 11, I remember quite well as well. I was at every semi-final with the exception of the Canberra game. So I got a
Mm.
bit of trauma from both the Roosters and the Dragons games in 2010, but we won't go there because there's enough trauma to get through in the present day. But
Yeah.
look, I mean, I am a journalist. I moonlight as an overpaid, overweight reserve grader, and they pay me nothing. So
I've
um,
seen the footage, mate. You go hard, especially get you in the
we
open age city country.
yeah, we are a long way away from that. I saw Craig Garvey got man of the match actually. There's an old throwback for you.
There you go.
But yeah, mate, I'm just glad that we got this started. I mean, I don't know if many people know, but I was DJ Tiger Town on Levels Network there for a little while, and I feel like I've always wanted to do something like this and build it back up. And I thought if there was any person that'd be ideal for this, it'd be yourself, mate. And I mean, we've said it for a little while. We figured we could do things in a different way to what's out there, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I wanna like, do a bit of like deep dive into things. I think, shout outs to the likes of Nothing But West Tigers on Twitter, like the
Absolutely.
way
Best account.
he gets into the pathways, and I know you and I both like to do that as well. And I think, based on the limited audience that we have for our bullshit we talk, I think the boys like it when we bring that stuff to light too. So hopefully more people like that. Maybe one day we can get that legend on the show. But aside from that, just being authentic and bringing a bit of humor to it, but trying to find a balance, I guess.
Absolutely. And mate, given our situation, I think you really have no choice but to find humor in what goes on at this cursed club.
Yeah.
But, to give people an idea who are listening in, we're just going to be a once a week for the time being. We're going to review and preview. So what you'll see is that we'll typically post late in the week once a team list is out, and we can sort of predict a little bit what's going to go on. We'll always discuss what's in the news and in the pathways, and have a bit of trademark shit talk. But ideally, look, I mean, everybody has goals and aspirations, but if we can speak to people inside the club like the Cumberland Throw do, with everybody at Para, and then obviously some current and former players and a few men from the Discord. But at the same time, this is all pie in the sky at the moment. It's just good that you and I can finally get in a room and do this.
Oh, mate, we'll be plenty entertaining enough for the time being, I think.
I hear that. I hear that. Well, look, let's roll in. So Magic round last week. Played the
I was there.
Dolphins on the Sunday night. You were there. The surface was atrocious. It was practically a heavy 10. And it was obviously Appy's 200th and Sione Fainu's debut. So congratulations to the Fainu family. I think they've completed the full set now. All four brothers have debuted. But ultimately, it was very much the same as it has been these last few weeks. Discipline let us down, and as did the quality of the players on field. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, it was probably I think that's a fair statement. I think it just felt like deja vu, really. Like I went to the earlier game in the year against the Dolphins. It was template. So similar in terms of what separated the two sides. I think honestly, not much, just the X factor of a guy like Hammer and his speed. Like just us not possessing something like that. Obviously, the discipline was an issue, but like we only lost by 2 converted tries. Hammer Stokes scored 2 runaway tries and we couldn't run him down. So, even with the discipline issues, we were quite in that game. So I really do think that, at the end of the day, it is really lacking that X factor, or really not getting enough out of who we think is supposed to be our X factor players.
Mate, question for you. Is it mainly X Factor? Are our structures good enough, do you think? And therefore, with a guy like Sunia Taruva or a guy like Jerome Luai, who do possess a bit of, game-breaking ability and X Factor, do you think that those structures will yield points, or is there work to be done?
It's a good question. I mean, the structures kind of get placed around the players that are running the structures, right? So like I would assume when somebody like Luai comes into the club that they'll, rejig things for him. But I mean, when you see teams winning games like the Newcastle Knights, who, really don't have all that much quality about them,
That's a fair summation, especially with Caleb. Oh, mate, they just
without
grit it
Ponga,
out.
they're winning games.
It's a gutter. It's a gutter fight. Like it's ugly.
Yeah. I think, structure can you can win games in spite of having basic structure, as long as your players really just like, I guess at that point, then you have to be disciplined and your forwards have to get on top and you have to be able to finish. So it's class. But yeah, I mean, teams with lack of class make up for it with good coaching. Last year you saw that with the Warriors, with Webster, like taking a team that nobody rated to the top 4. And, inversely, you can win with all class and just throwing the ball around like Para have made famous and we used to. So I don't know. I think we just 5 out of 10 across the board in every area. And I think that, once we get even like to an 8 out of 10 in one single area, whether that's having X factor players or whether that's having whether Benji starts to figure out how to be a more effective coach or, whatever the case may be, It should come with time, but we've been waiting so long, it gets really difficult.
Yeah, man, it's hard. It's hard because you understand that new board, new chair, new CEO, new coach. It's like,
Yeah.
it is turning over a new leaf in a sense, but it's also like, fuck, it's been 12 years, like soon to
I
be
think what
13. It's like, ugh.
I think what like gets to us is the fact that there's always this like moment in the season during all of these rebuilding years. There's always this moment in the season where they'll like win a big game against a club they shouldn't. Like this year, we flogged the Sharks.
Yeah.
Last year, we beat Penrith in the wet, and it's like, gosh, we've turned the corner, and it builds up this like idea that maybe we can win now, and then they just go on these massive losing streaks, and it's like,
Yeah.
whereas if they like only if they only won a game here or there against the Titans, or like scraped a win together against a fringe top 8 team and then lost another two, we'd know where we stood.
You'd
But
be
they go
okay
out
with
there they go out there and they flog Cronulla, who haven't lost a game
Yeah.
since. Beat Parramatta with a sin bin, and run them down, and it's like, why do we lose other games? It doesn't make any sense. So
It never
yeah,
has, mate. This club never
that's
has.
what frustrates us, I guess.
And look, the thing is as well is that it's not like, the back end of 20 and 21 and 22 where we just weren't at the races and there wasn't a lack of effort. Like the team is just standing up, but it's ultimately the lack of depth and the lack of quality in the roster in certain positions just ultimately kills us. And, you can deal with a lack of quality, I find, but in order to be able to deal with that, you have to have experienced players that won't let up for 80. And we just don't have that mix. We're the youngest, most inexperienced side in the comp. And yeah,
By far.
you can preach patience and stuff. Yeah, shout out Rugby League Eye Test. I'm pretty sure that's his graph. But
Yeah, yeah.
and we're only going to get younger next year with guys like Kit and Chris Fangutu and so forth coming up into the side. But yeah, it's hard to watch, and as a long suffering fan, for these last 12 or 13 years without finals, it doesn't get any easier, and I think people go a little bit stir crazy as a result. Look, the forwards did their job. They laid a platform. I thought Stefano and Fonua-Bole, who both tend to, for the most part, mirror each other, played quite well. But I think, despite the fact that I was not necessarily calling for his head, but thought that his position needed to come under question when he was in the side, Aiden Caesar, I feel like we're missing his leadership and his direction a little bit at the moment. Do you feel the same?
Probably his kicking game, because I think that's the biggest difference between what Sullivan and him have presented. Caesar had a couple of really good games early in the season when we won, but he was here for several weeks into this losing streak, and I think in terms of like what he was offering, distributing the ball, and what he was offering in terms of steering us around, I don't think Sullivan's been that far off him.
Yeah,
I think
I tend to agree. I think for the
I
most
think I
part, I
think
know you
that
sort of said sorry, I'll jump in, like the kicking game
go
stuff. I actually thought that Bud, for the most part, was kicking to a similar point. I think with Caesar, probably he can see things on the field, so they're setting cues. So, for example, if you lay one to the right edge, and last week it was Kapoa, and he sucks in 2 or 3 defenders, and then chances are there's going to be an overlap somewhere. I feel like Caesar is a guy where he can say, all right, now we shift the ball, as opposed to going one in the middle again, like we always do, which is always very monotonous.
you'd think so with his level of
But at the
experience.
same
you'd
time,
think.
but at the same time, we're still averaging 12 points a game, and Aiden's been there for the majority of the game, so I'm not too sure. But look, I mean, he's got 2 more weeks of this suspension left, I think. So, hopefully this is an opportunity for him to reset. I'm not saying that we're going to have a better season or anything like that, but maybe he comes back and he sort of takes stock in this time away and sort of recalibrates a little bit. But again, I'm not too sure. But I mean, there's been games where. And, Coruscant is a part of this, but he's also, an incredible player. The spine probably hasn't played as well as we've needed them to. And that does come down to 2 players that are no, Lachlan Galvin isn't maligned. He's the chosen one. But Jareem Buller tends to be a lightning rod for criticism at the moment. Where do you think he's at? I'll give you an idea of where I think he's at once you sort of give me your call on it. Where do you think he's at?
Yeah, I'm in 2 minds when it comes to Buller, because he's so young into his career, and the pressure is on him to be our sparkling X Factor guy at a point in his career where he really shouldn't be. Like, you look at guys like Dylan Edwards who are absolutely gunning it now. He's been dropped to reserve grade in the past. It's not an abnormal thing for somebody to come out strong and drop back. Tedesco debuted at fullback for us, but then he really like cut his teeth in first grade as a winger.
Yeah.
Like, so it's difficult to put much criticism on him, but at the same time, he hasn't been the same player he was last year. Like, and I think that it really came to the fore on the weekend when you look at his stats and his involvements.
Yeah.
He just doesn't seem like a player who has much confidence.
There's that, and there's also the school of thought that he's injured and he's not meandering in the way that he does and throwing himself into certain collisions. He's not shirking. I mean, look, the lack of runs that he took last week was a massive concern, but for the most part, he still takes those play one, play two hit ups where he runs straight into the teeth of the defense and gets whacked and gets back up and goes again. Look, it's a Tim Sheen's cliche, but I always looked at the 50-game threshold and Jareem Buller, if he stays injury-free and plays every game, he's not going to hit the 50-game threshold for another 12 months. And
Yeah,
as a
exactly.
result, he's going to go through this washing machine where he's going to find things that he has to tune up and he's going to learn, in these next 12 months, what it truly is to be a first grader. Because when he first hit the scene, he was amazing, but it wasn't necessarily his attacking gifts. He wasn't like fucking Jaden Campbell, for example, who set it alight with this pure X Factor footballing talent. It was Jareem's work, cleanup work, sort of catching bombs and, saving tries and, chasing down other players. But look, I think the knock on Jareem at the moment is his urgency. And I don't think that's sort of unwarranted. I mean, you look at his stats here, from last week. But again, I just sort of feel as if maybe he is injured or maybe, he does need some time in cup. It's just one of those things. It's hard to read, but once again, I do feel like he's a basketball convert. He's not even a union convert. Like it's and you can tell when he passes the ball and he sort of flicks it over the top of his back row, which frustrates me. But at the same time, if you can create a break, then I've got no issue with it. He's still learning and he's only had 2 preseasons. And I do think that he is our long-term fullback. And when injury-free and confident, he embodies everything that Marshall wants our side to be, which is high effort, high energy, and high-level application. So, I don't think people want to hear it and everything like that, but I do think he's the future. Like Luke Laulii and Sania Taruva, Heath Mason to a lesser extent. Those guys are going to push him next preseason. I think that's going to bring the best out of him, hopefully. The other one, Lockie Galvin, he looks a yard slower. But is that because teams now have had a bit more time to do a bit of video on him and he's got to go and work on some things on the paddock and in the lab? Do you think? What do you reckon?
No, I don't think so. Like, I mean, I think he's the same guy he was in round 1, except for the fact that he's playing in a team sorry, not round 1, round 2. But he's playing in a team that's just losing confidence across the board. And he's like, for an 18-year-old, he's the sort of dude who will like try everything. Like he'll take the onus upon himself to try to create. And if as we've seen it as Tigers fans, like in games where like there's been one dude running around trying to create, Appy does it almost every week and nobody's going with him. That makes them look stupid. It made Barrow look stupid. It made Benji look stupid. It made Tedesco look stupid. Galvin's that guy now.
Okay.
Like he's got his play style heavily revolves around like having the defenders have to make decisions about whether or not to commit to him or to the guys he's threatening to pass to. The guys that he's threatening to pass to are not doing anything, or they're sitting on the sideline in the sin bin, or whatever the case may be, right? Like and I don't know, I haven't looked at this, but I would suspect that the left side of the Tigers, which is where he's dominant, has been almost a different crew every week this season. Like
the exception of Olam, you're right. He had Bateman there on that left edge for a little while until he got moved to the middle, and Semweller had that wonder game against Penrith.
Yeah,
He's been there ever
and
since.
Alan Malo's now back in there. Like,
Well,
so,
there's
like,
that. He
he's
started with
not,
Junior Tupou to begin with. He had Naden
yeah,
there
he's
for
not
5 or
had
6
the time.
months.
And I watched him a lot, like, and I'm sure you did too, as a rookie. And he had the benefit of playing with the same kids at school, in the Magpies,
Yep.
at rep level, which was Luke Lalili,
Yeah.
which was Latu Fainu, funnily enough, when he was playing in the back row with Latu in the six. Not that Latu played for the
You meant at
Magpies, but
Westfields?
he played at Westfields and he
Yep.
played in the rep games with him. So he had these combinations that he built with the kids around him, and he was dangerous because they knew what he was doing, and
Yeah.
he knew to expect them to do things. I remember when I first saw Galvin explode onto the scene was live at the Schoolboys Carnival at Redcliffe when he was playing for the combined high schools team. And it was literally just him and Luke Lalili just blowing everyone away while the rest of his team stood around. Like it was
Yep.
like he needs to build combos with not just players who understand him, but also players that can take advantage of what he's
Yeah.
doing. Because there's two sides to it. You can have the like ability to recognize that he's going to do stuff, and you see the makings of a good combo with Sam Weller.
Yes.
But at the same time, Uppy and whoever's playing halfback, whether it's Caesar or Sullivan, keep going to the right. They keep going away
Yes.
from it. And Galvin's having to run across the field to find involvements. The end of the day, I think a lot of it is coming down to desperation across the board. Losses are stacking up.
Yeah.
Every individual player is trying to be the guy to make the difference, and it's taking them out of the structure when they should be staying in the structure.
It's
And that's
getting to that
actually
point again. It's getting to that point again where exactly what you say, that we're getting a little bit too desperate and a little bit too erratic. Where I remember John Bateman saying last year in an interview we did with Jimmy Graham, saying that basically we just started thinking about the most minute things, like should we all go to bed at this time, or what are we putting in our bodies and this and that, and ultimately we just lost track of what was important. It feels like we're getting to that point again. I mean, I think we've lost the same amount of games as we did when we first went. What was it? Was it 0-7 or 0-8 before we beat Penrith? It's sort of, it's the
we have
club's
the exact same record and
yeah.
almost the exact same points differential in for and against. So like I saw a post on Twitter and it was basically like we're obviously sitting there going, oh, man, we're in every game, we're in every game. Well, same record, same for and against.
Yeah, it's a massive, massive concern. And look, this week, to flip it to the preview, this week looked like a game for the most part that seemed winnable. I watched the Cowboys on Saturday night, and yes, they beat South, but they did not put South away, and South are atrocious. They seem like a team that really does not want to defend. You look at that try that Latrell scored, and yes, he has superhuman strength. There's no doubt about it. You see him put front rowers on their backsides, but there was not enough players in the picture to try and stop him when he eventually just, waltzed in under the post. Like, this is a side that I don't think is playing for their coach. They love to attack, but they hate to defend, and that's an attitude thing. But the thing is that with these outs that we currently have, namely Justin Olam, I think it was time for Brent Naden to jump back to reserve grade and start
It was
taking
long.
piss at halfback
Yeah,
for the
it was,
Maggies again. But like
yeah.
it's Josh Folletti comes in on that left edge, and Josh, for the most part, I think does show promise. But I also believe that Josh is 12 to 18 months away, and the sheer lack of quality in the roster has brought him in. Declan Casey obviously filters onto the right edge to replace the suspended Brent Naden. The thing with Casey is that a very, very solid and by all reports, a very professional rugby league player in his preparation. But the thing with Declan is that poor bastard, it's like he's cursed at NRL level. So hopefully it was just a Bulldog thing and he picks that out. But look, those two in terms of defensive combinations and attacking prowess, I'm not too sure how they're going to go. Josh Folletti will help us out of yardage. He really muscles up and has a red hot crack there. Declan's quick. He might be able to create a few things, but I'm not too sure. But the one I want to get to is Justin Matamua. 3-game suspension he's had that he copped for something he did in that North Sydney game at Campbelltown. I don't even know what it was when I was watching that game. But 3-week suspension, and he's now starting at lock finally. And I think a lot of people for a lot of time, we saw his game in the 19s Origin in 2022 and he lit it up. And, he had this beautiful understanding of when to pass and when to run. And, He couldn't really recreate that at cup level. I feel like before he got suspended, he was finally finding the right balance and the right mix. My only query is him coming off suspension and going straight into the starting side for NRL. I'm not too sure about that. Is this what do you think this is? Is this Marshall believing that he's ready to go, or is it as simple as our attack is shocking? We need to hold up players in the middle via a bit of ball playing and keeping them honest, and Matamua is able to do that, or is it both?
Yeah, I think that I will just say I don't think it's a bad thing that he had a 3 week break. Because if you think back to last year, Buller had a 3 week break before he debuted in first grade. He got injured in New South Wales Cup.
Yep.
And then he vanished. And then he came into first grade without any run in New South Wales Cup and he blew it up. So
Yeah.
if in many respects, I feel like as soon as Matamua got suspended, they probably were like, right, straight into the first grade structures. You're going to come into the first grade side in 3 weeks' time. And they just had him building himself right up to this game day. I feel like he'll be okay from that perspective. Is he a better choice than Sione Finu anyway? I
Yeah.
don't know. I think that it's pretty obvious. I think it's pretty obvious that the decision has come down to us needing another ball distributor, needing some class in the middle. So I expect to see him doing a lot more passing than I'll see him doing a lot of running.
Yes.
But I do think like in the previous times that I've seen Matamua, and I agree with you, I think he was struggling to build the physicality that was needed to play with the men in the pack.
He
And he
needed some
spent the
fucking
last
mongrel about him. He needed some shit about him. Like that was the big thing.
Yeah, and he spent the last year, like last year in New South Wales Cup, really struggling from that perspective. And he started this season looking the same. And as you
Mm.
said, couple of games, but it's just a couple of games. And the physical nature of NRL versus New South Wales Cup is incomparable. I think the saving grace here is that, as you pointed out, the Cowboys are not really like in for the dogfight. That's not how they're playing right now. They're just trying to like layer it up. They're not actually
Absolutely.
trying to put the hurting on people. They're not really like, so it's not a bad side for him to debut against. I don't think it's going to help us that much. I think we're in for a world of trouble anyway. Do you mind if I just
Yeah.
like touch on Folletti for a second?
Yeah, man, please.
So on the subject of Folletti and Casey, I actually think like I probably would have picked Casey this week regardless, ahead of Naden. So I don't necessarily think Casey's been rushed into it. I actually think Casey's been probably one of our best players in New South Wales Cup. I don't expect him to come in and blow it away, but like when you look at the contributions Naden's provided, I feel like putting somebody in there that just literally doesn't make mistakes, that doesn't get sin binned, is a net win. And
Yeah.
Casey's gonna provide similar impact from doing hit ups. He's better with the hands than Naden. Naden's a great kicker of the ball. If you've been watching New South Wales Cup in his halfback games, but he's been playing centre, so you get. Folletti, on the other hand, oh man, I'm not sold on. I'm not sold on. I know you said he has promise, and every young footballer has promise, but like it was only like 4 weeks ago that he was like on the bench in New South Wales Cup.
That's true.
Like he couldn't even like beat out. He couldn't even beat out Casey, and I want to say I don't know who the other center
It might
was,
have been
but it was.
Fatape.
But yeah, it might have been. But like, yeah, he wasn't even first choice New South Wales Cup center, and now less than a month later, and he hasn't been playing great in New South Wales Cup. Like he is definitely there because we bang out of options. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough one for him. And if he's marking up on Val, don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know which way they're marking up. Do you know? Know
I've
which
never
way
seen
they're
Josh
marking
Folletti
up?
play anything other than right edge, mate. So there's your answer. There's your answer.
Mm,
Um, because I forgot to pay for Zoom, we only have 9 minutes left, so we might keep going.
that's all right. It's
The
always good
man
to,
who
it's
is
always good.
lining keeps us honest, but the man who is
Yeah.
will line up, we think, on that right edge. Isaiah Papali'i was today given permission to negotiate elsewhere, which means he's a good player. He will not be at the club in 2025. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I only had a small window of time to think about this because I only found out about it when you sent me the bloody Google Doc. I didn't know. I haven't been on mine today. So my thoughts are it's disappointing because we thought that was going to be one hell of a signing, but he has not produced. He hasn't produced. So I don't know. Am I upset? No, I'm not. I was really hopeful we'd go back into the market. Like we literally just saw in his most recent game for us, we had to move him from his preferred position to the middle just to get use from him. His
I
best
remember
game.
you saying Papali had forgotten he was good. We put him in the middle. He went, hold on a sec, I am good. And then he went to the edge and said, I am going to continue to be good.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's like it's disappointing from the perspective of it's like, oh, was he just about to explode? To me, it's Matto again. I don't think he ever wanted to be here. Like, remember, he was I'm an iron from being here in the first place. If you don't want to be here and it's a growing club and you're trying to build culture and you're trying to build systems and he didn't want to be here in the first place, bye. There's the door, man.
Yeah,
Look,
that's it.
good player, good player. If we're having to move him to the middle to get value out of him anyway, like he's not what we didn't sign him to be a middle.
That's right. And I mean, the thing is as well is that Samuel Afainu's performances commanded him a role on that left edge. Now, I know
I
that people
agree.
are going to say John Bateman, like his performances haven't been great, but the thing is that John is the vice captain. He's
Yeah.
obviously very highly regarded by the coaching staff, the playing group, and the administration. He's also a person that John's won premierships. John's been involved in high level setups. He won premierships in England, but he's played for his country, and he's a big part of this culture that they want to produce. You look at what he did defensively and how he bodyguarded Galvin in those early rounds. That I think defense is very much the focus for West Tigers now, which doesn't sound right to say, but my point is that Isaiah ultimately something had to give with Samuela improving and John being a crucial part, irrespective of performances. I know people don't like hearing this, but a decision had to be made. And this frees up 650K for us to go elsewhere. We obviously let's look. Our back row depth was shocking as it was, but AJ's off contract and chances are he's probably not going to be renewed. Toomuth has a player option, which I don't think he's going to take up because he's not going to continue to play flag. Lachlan Broadalow, albeit promising, is a long way off. He's not a top 30 player, in my view, for next year. And then you've got Tony Suka, who's coming in, but hasn't really set the world on alight in Cup. Now, you can go further down and we can talk about Phoenix Godinay, and I will talk about Phoenix Godinay until the cows come home. But the fact of the matter is that he's 4 years
He's 17, isn't he?
old.
16,
Yeah,
sorry.
like he's 17. Like it's
You know who the answer is at back row?
hit me.
Folletti.
You like him there, eh?
I like him at back row, man. He's a terrier. He's lost his pace, but he hasn't lost his will to get into contact. He looks to me like a line running back row. Like I think that's where his future lies. But I'm joking. I don't think it lies there in the near future. But I do think he is a back row.
Interesting. Look, all right. Give me a score line for this game against the Cows. And it can't be 74 nil.
Nah, look, it's been a while since we haven't had 30 put on us. I don't think the Cowboys are going to put too many past us, but where are our points come from? Like
My
the
issue
Cowboys,
is that actually, yeah, you go.
the Cowboys, they're not defending well, but they're not going to have to defend well to stop us. We're going to have to defend like crazy to win this game. Like, I mean, if it's a monsoon and the game gets narrowed because of the weather or something, we might win a 12-10 or like something like that. But I can't see us scoring more than 3 tries. And so I'm going to go with in saying that, I'm going to say the Tigers win 18-16. Because my status as the Oracle requires me to put that.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to go a little bit more realistic. I'm going to go 40.
I have to put that out in the universe.
I'm going to go 44-16.
Wow, that's not realistic.
Oh.
Are you serious? We haven't had 30 put past us since round 1.
We have Josh Folletti and Declan Casey in the centers, and that's not
We
a knock
had
on him.
Naden.
It's the lack of defensive cohesion on both edges. And
Yeah, we had
with the attacking prowess of the North Queensland Cowboys, I'm worried.
Yeah, fair enough.
Pathways, just quickly, aka Jordan Miller watch. The big fella, his motor has increased again, as it has been week on week. He played
He's killing it,
39
man.
minutes the week before and scored a brilliant try. This week it was 44 minutes. He had 12 runs for 117 meters, so just a shade under 10 meters a carry. He had 3
Yeah.
offloads, 3 tackle breaks, and most importantly, 21 tackles with no misses. I know how much you love this bloke. How far off is he off first grade?
Not very, man. Not in this squad. Not in this team. Not with the way he's developing. I think I said, like, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago he debuted. His first debut, I was like, he'll be in first grade before Origin.
He
I
was
still think he
unreal
will.
that day.
I still think he will. Like, I think,
cannot. For those who don't know Jordan Miller, he will be the biggest player in the NRL when he gets on. When he gets on, he is nearly 2 meters tall. He is at least 125 kilos. He is a mammoth. But the thing with Jordan is that his work rate is just like nothing I've ever seen. I saw in an SG ball game when they played the Roosters at Camden a couple of weeks back. The bloke was taking 2 hit-ups a set, was ball playing like the best of them, and was was in everything. The bloke runs himself into a stupor. The best ever was when we played Newcastle the other week. We won, and the poor bloke fella collapsed after 13 minutes. He ran himself into the ground.
Yeah, he's it, man. He is special. And you know, he can't put out long stints, but in those stints he goes real hard. He doesn't regulate himself.
No, he
which is
doesn't.
amazing.
Oh, bro, he's like my dog when I take him for a walk for anything like 25 minutes in summer. He's spread eagle on the ground on the tiles trying to cool down. But look, the thing is with Jordan is that that's 44 minutes of quality. If we can get the big fella up to 60 minutes in cup by the end of the year, which I think is feasible, I think that's reasonable. He springboards into a preseason and he comes out the other side. I'm telling you, he's a bolter.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I go the other way. Like, we have a forward every week on our bench in first grade that only plays 20. Why not Jordan Miller? Like, that's how I look at it. If that's the system, do it. I don't have him as a bolter for next year. I have him as a guaranteed round 1 starter, injury permitting.
100. Other things, Solomone Sakuru makes his debut on what I think will be the left wing this week. Interestingly, they're putting him on the wing because I've always seen him as a center. Maybe they're looking at him simply because, you know, our yardage game isn't too great. He's good at the air. He's good in the air, and he's well coached. You can tell his old man's a high level pathways coach. What do you think about Solo?
Like, prolific try scorer, very classy, huge, quick enough, first grader. I don't expect him to be in New South Wales Cup too long with the way the first grade team's playing, especially our wing. Especially like, I'm surprised that it's taken him this long to get to New South Wales Cup. Unless he was injured earlier in the year, it would have taken so long. I think he'll be in first grade pretty soon.
I hope so, man. I hope so. Look, well, that is all we have time for because once again, I didn't pay for Zoom Premium. So I am sorry to everybody who is enjoying that and yourself, Mac. WTF 001 done for this week. I'll try and upload it pretty soon. I'll get cracking.
Shout out to Music Man AJ.
Yeah, AJ, absolute legend. Thank you to all that have tuned in. Thank you, Mac, and we'll be back next week.
Cheers. See ya.
Bye.